Wheelchair Pals is a pretty good episode of Mickey Mouse Mixed Up Adventures. This is the first segment in the 27th episode of the third season. And in this episode, it's the annual Hot Diggity Dog Dance competition. And apparently every year Goofy has taken part in this, and Goofy has done very well. But unfortunately, one thing leads to another, and he ends up having a broken toe. And he has to spend time in a wheelchair. And of course he's very downcast about this because how is he going to take part in the competition? But Chester also has a wheelchair, and having a child character in a wheelchair is something that's going to evoke emotion, absolutely. And Chester teaches Goofy these, wheelchair moves, and teaches him how to kind of manage the wheelchair and move it around, and they kind of decide that they can still take part in the competition together in their wheelchairs, and that seems to be like what's going to happen. But then something happens that means Chester's left out. And I won't say any more than that, at least just now. But the fact that we're showing characters in wheelchairs is obviously something that's really good, because that doesn't happen that frequently, even nowadays in kids' TV shows. Unless the program is about a child in a wheelchair, it's rare that you'll have a supporting character who just happens to be in a wheelchair. And the fact that kind of Chester and Goofy are, I don't want to say having fun in their wheelchairs because that's not the right phrase I want to use, but the fact that they're kind of normalizing it, showing that you can still do things, I think that that's pretty good and pretty supportive. Goofy doesn't see the bigger picture and doesn't really see things from Chester's perspective at all, but he learns. He has a lesson to learn, and I think it's really important that if you've made plans with somebody, you shouldn't just drop them at the 11th hour. So that's a pretty important message too, but ultimately, it's about, I guess, normalizing wheelchair use and showing that all different kinds of people can use wheelchairs for different reasons, and that they can do things that everybody else can. It might just be in a slightly different way, which I think is pretty important. I think the message is delivered quite clearly. It's done obviously in quite a fun way, planning the dance. There's a lot of great music. They're having a lot of fun and it's quite high energy. So I think it worked quite well. It wouldn't have worked as well if, for example, they were in a hospital setting and it was quite clinical. That would kind of distance it almost. So I think they made the right decision with the narrative structure, and Chester as a character is really likable as well. So I thought it was pretty good. From a personal enjoyment perspective, it's not my favourite narrative, but it's one that I still thought was quite good and I quite liked it. And a real credit to the series because it's done in a fun way with a really important message.